Hi, this is Jeff White with Life and Living Now and Versatile Fighting Arts. And I was having a discussion and kind of thinking through some things on the 6 harmonies. In martial arts, we talk about 6 harmonies. 3 are internal, 3 are external. The 3 external, shoulders and hips, elbows and knees, hands and feet. The internal ones, as explained to me, are heart-mind. Heart-mind then leads Qi, so heart-mind and power for Qi, and then the Qi leads to power. So you have the combination of harmonizing the heart and mind, and then using that harmonized mind and heart combination then leads energy. So then from that you then create your intention to supply the energy, and then that energy then creates action, creates power. So it works very well when we're looking at a physical side in terms of how to become more internal in our movements within, say, martial arts or Qigong. Moving from center, having this sense of groundedness and centeredness and connectedness with the Tao, the universe, everybody and everything. And then we use that intention, and then that creates action. So there was a great correlation then between not just on the martial side, but on everyday living. When we combine heart and mind, when we put your mind into your heart, then that creates this strong sense of connectedness with the universe, with the Tao, with spirit, because you are taking your wisdom mind, and the heart speaks to our seat of belief, our seat of feelings and emotions, and our connection with things that are around us. So you're taking that and you're combining that with your wisdom mind. And we're not just saying, okay, I'm going to be more emotional. That's not what we're saying. We're saying don't lead with your emotions, you lead with your mind, but the mind is then combined with and fueled by the heart. So there's a few notes that I took that I also kind of wanted to kind of go over. And it's a lot of the old traditions, both modern and or ancient traditions as well as the modern traditions will emphasize this aligning with the rational mind and the feeling heart to achieve a balance. We call it wisdom mind, wise mind. It's a meeting point between the emotional mind and the reasonable mind. And so in the Buddhist thought, they have bodhicitta, which is awakening mind. It's literally an enlightened heart mind combining wisdom and compassion. And so that lets us know where we can go take this to higher levels. So when thoughts and feelings work together, then people will experience greater authenticity, greater clarity, and well-being. And research has shown that the practices that promote this kind of harmony, such things as Qigong, mindfulness meditation, yoga, other cognitive techniques. Even as I teach, just put your mind into your heart, and then you'll feel that sense of groundedness and that sense of centeredness, and lead from that sense of centeredness. And all of that improves emotional regulation, improves decision making, and improves overall well-being. Now, there are psychological benefits, including emotional balance and mental clarity, that mindfulness and practices like that will teach. That it's about noticing your feelings non-judgmentally. It reduces reactivity and reduces stress. For example, say if you're cultivating wise mind and heart mind, it significantly improves the emotional regulation. So it enables you to handle more intense feelings without losing control. And it's a practice. You're not going to always get this, right from the start. That's why it's a practice. There are times when, even now, sometimes we get overwhelmed with things that don't work out, life changes. We like to think that we can kind of roll with the flow, but this is part of it. Every once in a while, it may catch up with you, and you kind of feel this overwhelming sense, and then you just let those emotions be. Watch them, but don't act on them. You just kind of let them, that energy needs to come out, and you need to be able to look at that energy, and you need to be able to deal with it. I tend to go right when it becomes something I write conversations with myself. But there's things that you can do to assist in that. But the important part is put your mind in your heart and let that create. Put your wisdom mind in with your feeling mind, so you're harmonizing. You're not having a cognitive dissonance between I feel one thing and I think something else. Then you're creating that alignment between the two. And in doing so, you'll have better decision making. When logic and intuition are aligned properly, then the choices become more thoughtful. Wisdom mind, it integrates emotion and reason, so it leads to a more authentic and effective decision that comes from you. It honors all the different parts of you when you allow those parts to be honored and to be brought forth into that process. Structured tools like stop, which is stop, take a breath, observe, proceed. Pros and cons list, journaling is what I do. Basically, it's something to be able to look at those thoughts non-judgmentally, or at least objectively, and separate your feelings from those thoughts. And so overall, people who cultivate mindful awareness, they tend to pause, they tend to reflect, and results in a more balanced and more values-driven and principle-driven choices. And that really is where we want to come down to as well. When we have this heart-mind combination and this harmonization, is that we tend to make our decisions from our values. We tend to make those decisions more from principles rather than just emotional responses. Now, along with this, there's an increased sense of self-awareness and well-being. Mindful practices, they boost self-awareness, they reduce rumination, the constantly ruminating, repeating just automatic thoughts. It's as said, we have between 60 to 90,000 automatic thoughts in our head that we think every day. 60 to 90,000 thoughts, and about 90 to 95% of them are just automatic. We want to break some of that. Some of that we need. So it is good. It makes for efficient reasoning and efficient practice as a human. Other times we need to put a stop in there. We need to be more mindful and more aware. Mindfulness training consistently will enhance subjective well-being. It decreases anxiety and stress, improves self-regulation, which is important. So we don't have the need for drugs and alcohol and things like that in order to make us feel more normal. We don't need those. Likewise, gratitude practices, very, very important. It's a form of heart-centered journaling to write what you're grateful for. I have gotten into a tendency in the last little bit of when I wake up in the morning, I give thanks for, just for the day, and for, say, 3 things that I could be thankful for in the day. When I go to bed at night, I do the same thing. One of my meditation practices is I focus on the 5 internal organs, and I greet those organs with a lot of appreciative energy and gratification. Being very, being grateful for the health of those organs, etc. So, and that will lead to greater, positive emotions and even better health and outcomes. So, kind of in short, then, that's kind of what the mindfulness will do. There's also a lot of emerging research on heart-brain coherence that shows that cultivating positive feelings and centeredness of love and compassion, they create a harmonious heart rhythm patterns. And this psychological coherence, in turn, it plays an important role in facilitating higher cognitive functions, emotional stability, and states of calm. So in practice, heart-focused breathing, slow inhalations, exhalations, imagining the heart, putting your mind in your heart, can quickly calm the nervous system and sharpen focus. I teach this in our Qigong classes, that breathe in, breathe out, but put your mind in your heart. It becomes very important. Now, along with this as well, and as I kind of just touch base on a few notes, there's spiritual benefits. There's a lot of inner peace. That's really why I do this, for the inner peace and the calm. in the meditation traditions, as in Buddhist or Taoist or yogic, etc., highlight that peace comes from unifying the mind and the heart. Even a brief meditation can wipe away a day's stress, and it's very true. When I put my mind on pause and I focus on that space between the gaps of my thought, so I'm looking for that peace, and I'm creating my intention and my will, and I find that, I begin to lose that stress that we get caught up on, because really all that stress is an illusion, and we want to touch base with reality. We still need to be operating in this physical plane, so we want to do that as skillfully as possible. And how we do that is we put our mind in our heart, and then from there we create our intention. We put energy to it, and that creates our action. So we do so from a stronger spiritual, mental, and emotional base that allows us then to create a more in-depth and powerful intention for the things we want to do or things we want to change, and that creates a more centered and spiritual action involved as well. This kind of calm that carries over into daily life, it makes it easy to respond to difficulties by quieting discursive thoughts. Meditation opens a space for insight and reducing anxiety and promoting present-centered awareness. Clarity and insight is another big thing. A clear, compassionate mind sees situations more accurately. Empathy is good. In sales, we're always taught the difference between sympathy and empathy. And with sympathy, I'm kind of right in there with you. And I become part of, unfortunately, I can become part of that problem as well. I don't provide a way out. Empathy is a little more objective. But empathy can also look at somebody and go, yes, I see where I want to give you, I want to give you a hand up, I want to help. But also sees that, okay, we need to develop a sense of discipline. We need to develop, a more objective thought process rather than subjective. So empathy has both yin and yang, male and female aspects to it, masculine and feminine aspects. One is nurturing, and the other one is more disciplined and task-oriented, and it takes both. And it's the clarity of insight that a lot of this putting your heart into your mind allows that to happen, allows you to see that and to function with it. So, in Buddhism, there's the bodhicitta, is known as the heart mind of the Buddha. It fuses wisdom, clear understanding with compassion, open-heartedness, putting your mind in your heart, combining those two. Cultivating this bodhicitta, for instance, through compassion, insight meditation is said to reveal the true nature of reality, uprooting ignorance. And I find this to be very true. There's so much that comes with sustained practice that you begin to see insights. And, it begins to relieve the suffering that we have. Psychologically, this means reducing the distorted thinking and seeing challenges with fresh perspective, self-awareness, cognitive meetings as well. Loving kindness and compassion meditations, deliberately train the heart. So research shows that these kinds of practices increase positive emotions and empathy. Loving kindness meditation consistently raises positive affect and reduces negative affect. So in daily life, these kinds of compassion, heart-centered attitude fosters connection, social harmony, enhancing both personal and meaningful relationships. And many spiritual paths speak of unity, and I do as well. And say Sufism, the heart is seen as the seat of spiritual awareness and divine wisdom. And a lot of the traditions and belief systems, that the heart is seen as the very seat of spiritual awareness of our belief system as well. So we want to be able to pay attention to that divine wisdom. Purifying the heart through love and surrender to the one allows us to access higher consciousness and experience spiritual enlightenment. So the perspective can give life a profound sense of purpose and interconnectedness. Embracing practices like devotional chanting, if you're into that, prayer, or simply reflecting on unity can also shift one's sense of self from being isolated to being connected. The more that you put your mind in your heart, and the more that you will feel connected to everyone else as well. So, the heart is typically seen not just as an organ, but as the seat or the center of emotional intelligence, spiritual perception, and purifying the heart leads to higher consciousness. Now a core practical path for this mind-heart harmony is simply mindfulness meditation, which is part of what I am doing when I say put my mind in my heart. As I teach when I do this, I say put your mind in your heart as you go through your day. You're becoming more mindful of what's around you, of what's within you. And so by observing these thoughts and these feelings with a gentle sense of awareness, we train ourselves not to be swept away by emotion or lost in distraction. Studies even show that short mindfulness sessions, improve mood and emotional balance, so take advantage of it. Focusing on the breath clears mental clutter, enhances self-control. When tough emotions arise, mindful attention kind of lets us see things as they are, as a passing phenomena rather than commands. I had this yesterday where we had some stuff going on, and there was just a lot to consider, and I found myself a little bit kind of stressed out. And I just said I need to let the energy of this emotion just kind of burn itself out. You can't push it down. If you push it down, you repress it, and it'll come back. So it's sitting with it, not adding to it, not taking away from it. And for me, when it's in that kind of situation, I go right. It's like I have a conversation with myself, and whether I'm talking to the Tao, I'm talking to myself, but I'm hearing both sides. By journaling, it causes me to slow my mind down and focus on how to frame it. What am I feeling? And so some of that gets worked out in that journaling. That's how I do it. At the end, I felt a great sense of relief, a better sense of balance, a better sense of perspective. And all that comes from mindfulness. All that comes from putting your mind in your heart and then living from that state. I would just encourage you to use a lot more mindfulness meditation practices. Guided practices are good as well. I have a friend, student, who loves using guided meditation. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly good. There's a lot of different things that you can do. 5 to 10 breath awareness meditations are great. Focusing in the morning, feeling a breath, watching your thoughts. The purpose for today is to talk about the heart-mind, and the heart-mind combines with your energy, and there's attention. So now I take that heart-mind, those deep levels, I apply my attention to it, and my intention can then produce action. So I encourage you that you can find other ways, but I look for ways that are not just creating states of mind. I want to create a new stage within my life. So you don't just have, it's important to have states. Meditation provides a state. Being aware and mindful provides a state. But when you do that enough, the difference between states and stages is states are temporary. So you can have states. It doesn't mean that you have acquired that stage of mindfulness, that stage of development of evolutionary progress. It just means that you can touch on it. And you can touch on it 1 time, 10 times, 20 times. It may or may not then produce a stage. You do it enough, and you surrender it enough, and then you will find that you will encompass, you'll transcend and include all of that, and it'll create a stage. And that stage is now a more permanent structure in your psyche that now you view the world from and your existence from. So, all those are good. We'll probably kind of wrap this up here. The daily practices, I love the meditation. I love consciously going through my day, saying my mind and my heart and feeling that. Breathing, at times we just need to just focus on the heart and breathe diaphragmatically, nice and deep. Journaling, as I mentioned. Taking short movement breaks. When in our Qigong class, I did this with a student, a friend of mine. If you get overwhelmed, just lift, raise. I just call it lifting hands up, float hands down, float hands up. Doing this, I'm using my hands and forearms and kind of resonating with the energy centers. So root chakra, sacral, solar plexus, heart. I can go to throat and then back down again. For deep diaphragmatic breathing. Those short movement breaks, then recentered him and then recentered you. And even during a testing, I saw him take it, and he got right back in and aced it. So use these things. Short movement breathing creates space in your mind and settles down ego and lets you access more of the spirit soul. Doing mindfulness pauses, just kind of observe your inner state, take a breath. Mindful is very good. Any loving kindness is also good, although make sure that when you're kindness, it's easy to get over into by your emotions, which will run in rather than leading from your wisdom combined with your heart. Affirmations are really good, and a nice end of day review. As I go to sleep, I like to review the day and give thanks. So, it's a multifaceted process of skills, how to put your heart, combine mind. There's a lot of different paths to it. You find what works best for you, and because of the way you feel, you'll notice you become more mindful. You become more you'll have a sense of energy. Give us some thought. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. And with Life and Living Now, we like to add that are more for development purposes, as opposed to on my other page for YouTube, which is martial stuff. So if you get from this, I'm very thankful. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you're getting from it, and we'll make that more comments later. All right, thanks. Have a great day.